Can you hear me?
We had the idea to basically use this a little bit as a more interactive format for the last part of the day with regard to like having a debate. And the idea behind it is also that you work in the groups that you have together, but also that you train your skills a little bit in terms of making arguments, debating and discussing with each other. And so our idea, and especially also the purpose of this evening debate, is a little bit more to have basically a discussion also on climate policies in Nepal, but also the access for young people to politics, and then also like how you, for example, can make your cases. And then we basically go into, I'm going to give you basically a short introduction into the setup and the framing of how we have for the flow more. We'll have, I will give you a little bit also like choosing one person per group to speak for the group, and I'm going to be a bit of facilitator, and it's really about also like sticking to your roles. Here, the business sector, that means a little bit more like tourism, for example, also sustainable development, and also going a bit more into the debate of the green transition. So the discussion that we started earlier, nature, we talk about climate change, different politics in Nepal, how you as young people, somewhere spread out there from SACE, how young people can actually have an influence in national politics, and how you can basically also influence. And the third one is also that we Nepal in a global context. So see it not only in the Nepali context, but also a little bit what does that mean forest fires for the whole region, for a wider context. So basically to give you a little bit of a background, how we want to like frame the debate. So the debate overall is the idea of not finding perfect solutions, but more like to understand the conflicts that are there between the different groups, so that you in a practical sense also get a feeling in like the simulation how other groups are seeing this and thinking this. So the important thing is not what you personally think of this. You can also be, if you're like, even if you're like pro-farming or something, you can be a very evil businessman, for example, and make your case here, so that we really have the discussion between each other. So think also about the arguments that come with this position, and think about the role of the people that are basically and how they're acting. Crisis. That's just 3 points. Think about 2 to 3. For now, also 1 speaker per group, so that they can.
The time now, okay? So we have 15 minutes start. And who are you to be subsidy?
For example, if you more like this is more the just to give you time to get a feeling for your roles. So you have time afterwards also to discuss this. But just to give you now time for the opening statements to present to the others a little bit your ideas, what you discussed, and to give the others also an impression of what's the main topic and important things for you. I would ask 1 person per group to be the speaker for the next 2 parts, 2 segments, which is basically the opening statement and then a short little debate with each of you. Okay.
So our group is the farmers of the local communities here in Nepal. I'll be providing a short insight and some key issues for the farmers. Well, agriculture is the main backbone of the economy in Nepal, employing about 60% of the population, yet an enormous number of farmers remain underprivileged despite the government's interventions like the NDC 3.0 initiative and billions in subsidies of proper implementations of techniques prevent any kind of benefit for the farmers. So the issues that we highlighted are land fragmentation, bureaucratic hurdles, and water scarcity and climate vulnerability. So for the first issue that we are providing is the land fragmentation here in Nepal. So a lot of people here own small fragments of land, which is hard to actually create a field in those fields, Because of the limited reach of subsidies, though the government allocates massive budgets for subsidies, studies indicate that only 7% of farmers receive them. Bureaucratic hurdles. Small-scale farmers often find it hard with the system here. The physical distance to government offices means that the subsidies also sometimes get divided into the middlemen or wealthier farmers that often claim them. Due to lack of proper infrastructure, 30 to 50% of the produce are at loss due to the lack of cold storage and reliable transport. Water scarcity. Groundwater levels are dropping and rivers drying due to the environmental degradation into rains rely on the monsoon. So the farmers, they only rely on the monsoon for their fields to flourish. As for climate vulnerability, a single flood or delay means a lot to the farmers as they are in big loss. These are our key arguments. Thank you.
Steady, go.
Hello everyone, we are from Youth Activism on Climate Justice, Flood and Landslide. We stand here in 2026 and we are done with the political issues. While this room debates market feasibility, the reality outside is blunt. Our global food system is on life support. We represent the youth, the marginalized, and the women who produce the world's food, but own not its land. We are not here to ask for your permission to survive. We are here to present the bill for your inactions. Our first debate topic is to government stop funding extension. You are currently spending $30 destroying nature for every $1 you spend protecting it. You provide over $625 billion in annual subsidies to industrial agriculture practices that are killing our topsoil. This human rights crisis in 2026 data shows that after climate disaster, white survivors see their wealth increase by 126,000, while black survivors lose 27,000. We demand an immediate redirection of these subsidies into a just transition fund that prioritizes racial and gender repartition. There is no climate action without social justice. Our second point is the greenwash audit is here. To the business, the 80-80 gap is your downfall. You spend 81% of your marketing on green claims while directing 80% of your actual capital into exclusive supply chains. Your Scope 3 emissions are the primary drivers of the 90% topsoil risk. We face by 2050, here are no longer asking for voluntary reports. We are using our digital platforms to audit your supply chains in real time. If you cannot prove your business is regenerative, you should face all climate malpractice tasks. To farmers, we are here still. To our local companies, the industrial complex has lied to you. They have trapped you in a cycle of debt and chemicals where climate shocks drive 40 to 50% spikes in rural poverty. We are striving for farmers' bill of right. We demand that the women, the backbone of food security, receive more than the current 0.6% of climate funding. Closing the gender gap in agriculture would increase global GDP by 1 trillion and feed 45 million more people. We want to pay you a living wage to join your farms and do that. Thank you.
Businesses. Hello everyone, we are the business sector of Nepal and we are investing in a bio-fertilizer manufacturing company for reducing environmental damage and strengthening local economic resilience. We claim to be an agricultural nation where 89% of the total population depends on 70% of total land for feeding the nation basically. our demand from the government is that we need temporary protection for an infant green industry. So we are basically producing a biodegradable fertilizers for the farmers, and we demand tariffs on import and subsidies for us. We believe that this helps the environment of Nepal and the farmers, as it's biodegradable. Reducing imports breaks the dependency that we have on our neighbors, and it also supports local economy and it creates jobs in the Tarai region. Economic resilience and national interest is at peak of our idea.
Good evening, everyone. So we are the government of Nepal, and we have capital, which is business, foundation, which is farmer, and conscience, which is youth activists. But without a bridge, these groups remain isolated. So our only agenda is integrated growth initiative, which can be green economy. We want to build a nation where farmers use sustainable technology, businesses fund eco-startups, and youth activists lead the implementation. For example, the youth business. For every dollar a business invests in youth-led agricultural project, the government provides a tax rebate of 1.5%. Thank you.
What they are criticizing in how you see things. So now we're going to start a little bit with the debate on your points to go a bit more into that, and then I will open up the next part of this afterwards, which will then be a little bit of a task for all of you again, and on young people and how they should influence climate policies. I'm going to go around and ask you guys just a little bit about this. So, farmers, you can also see who wants to answer from your side, but this is also about directly on the spot. So think about it, 2 minutes, and then give your answer. And the question is for you the same, but the idea is a little bit to get into engagement and really answer to each other. I will facilitate this a little bit. But the idea is also to, for example, say how we as farmers, for example, want to involve more young people in policies, and then activists can, of course, call up the government again, or go into the farming sector, or say also what are your demands a little bit, so that we can get a little bit more into the depth of it. And the business sector as well. How do you want to involve young people? Are you not caring about young people, but only about profits? That's so 2 minutes. Really think fast about it.
To affect the farmers is by filling in the technology gap. We can set an example on how youths can choose not to go abroad and do something in their own nation. In Nepal, there are people who don't have any higher education that they need to do agriculture. So we need to provide vocational training to those who are already involved in the agricultural sector, and as well as provide modern tools and technologies, and we should also give them training to use them. So as youth, we can be the voice for the farmers to pressurize the government in order to complete these demands. Thank you.
It's not like why you're not using it now, and why you want to build the capacity for younger one. You're not using this technology as of now, right? So why you're not using it? You already know it and you can give training. How you will give training?
Person to give the training, but like
What as a farmer you should do or you can do is what the question is. Training.
yeah, we were farmers, so we built this argument as youth. So as youths, how can we help the farmers? That was the question.
Okay, what is the question on the
You talked about investment, but how much of that actually reaches small and fragmented landlords in rural areas?
For the second question that you gave us, we got the question wrong.
So farmers actually have a little land ownership, so that is very difficult to do agriculture. So that was the point.
With Nepal spending over 28.82 billion rupees on fertilizers import in just last year and rupees 52.29 billion rupees on imports over the last 7 years. And this is the real figures, and alongside the money, our youths are also going abroad. With over 4 million Nepalis working abroad currently and over 1,500 youths going abroad daily, not only is our money going abroad, so is our youth. And so basically, what we are going to do is involve the youth with jobs being created.
So I think we are at a point where government needs young generation more than ever. The September 8-9 protest was a milestone itself. The youth showed immense courage to challenge the government, and the government is now ready for a change. We see a huge gap between the voices of youth and the government initiative. So to bridge the gap, we would launch new policies. Rather than integrating the youth from a very entry level as clerk roles, we will offer placements for youth directly to ministers on specific projects on their specific areas, maybe on digital transformation, green energy. This is where our main initiative will focus on. And again, we will also be providing student loans for the students who are more than ready to work for the government. Thank you.
Like some conflict, some ideas here. That's a good start for our next phase. And as we like it, we're now exactly in the development, and our lovely jury and myself, we just got a call from the United Nations that the Paris Agreement has been signed. And since there's a big interest from the United Nations in Nepal itself, they asked us that you develop together a Youth Climate Action Pact. Meaning, you as 4 interest groups need to now negotiate together 3 shared commitments, and the main demands are that all groups must compromise and you be ready to defend your argument. On the watch, and then here's good plans. So from now on, there are lines, you will find hopefully some points together. I wish you a lot of fun, and in 20 minutes I will ask you about your shared commitments.
Action plans. So first, it's about digital sovereignty. We want to digitalize almost everything that's happening right now. For instance, the farmers want a very good database. So we want to actually have a good database of how much are they producing, how much is the middleman cutting the profits, or how much are the farmers actually receiving, so we can actually work on those issues. Similarly, digitization, one of the major issues that our youth have is that there is a lot of corruption, there is not enough transparency. So we think that with digitization, we can actually eliminate or actually reduce those issues. We cannot say we are going to be perfect or 100%, but we say that with digitization and digital sovereignty, we can actually reduce them. And the business, it's similar to the businesses as well, because we don't have, again, it's very not well digitized. So we want the businesses growth or the profit that the businesses are doing, so we can actually have a very good database and then actually work on it when we have a good database. So it's going to be our foundation where we are going to work on policies, we are going to work on projects. So that's our #1 priority. Second, since we are talking about climate, we all know that climate is a very vulnerable country when it comes to climate hazards, climate consequences, or the impacts of climate change. So when we go to the Paris Agreement, we want the countries that are emitting more carbon dioxide to pay more, to compensate us in some ways. Maybe it can be through projects or it can be monetary support. So we are going to say that since you are the ones who is doing the harm, we want you to compensate for us. So yeah, that's how we plan to work on the two commitments. That's for now. Thank you.
Associated with all these things because no one is included in your second commitment. Sorry? What is your second commitment? It's about getting carbon credits from other countries, right? So how these people will be a part of it?
We know that Nepal doesn't emit as much carbon as other developed nations, but the amount of carbon that they produce and the harm that they are doing to the environment, they are the major cause for the climate change. So the things they do indirectly affect us. So if they are contributing in the climate change, then we are not. But we are also facing the consequences, such as in the agriculture field. And most of the population of Nepal is involved in agriculture field, which is more than like 60%. So it is a huge number. So if the agriculture part is getting harmed due to the climate change, and we are also not contributing anything to the climate change. So what we want is compensation from the developed nations to boost our agriculture, and if already most of the population is involved in agriculture, it would be helpful to increase the GDP. So that is the main idea.
For farmers, because we are the ones who suffer from the climate change the most, because our land gets destroyed, and because of landslide, floods, we cannot generate food for our climate smart or climate friendly technologies.
In this debate, we raised three key important topics to each and every sector. The first one was agriculture. So what we actually raised was, we talked about climate resilient agriculture. Since Nepal being at the front for all the climate hazards and all the climate change impacts, we want the agriculture community to go steadfast in climate resilient agriculture. What is climate resilient agriculture? You focus on your own native agricultural production rather than importing or producing the other exported agricultural products, right? So this was our fundamental demand to the agricultural community, and to this demand they did agree to some extent. And this is especially complicated because it is not only the agriculture sector that can solely do it. It also requires the businesses as well as the government. So we can call it's a quadrilateral cooperation to achieve climate smart agriculture. Second, our demand to businesses was fundamentally to ramp up their corporate responsibilities, also known as CSR, towards the climate sector, and the mitigation measures that CSR approaches could include. So, to all the MNCs, the multinational corporations, the big guys, we request the big guys to actually focus on some very tangible and results-based corporate responsibility activities that could, in theory and in practicality, support the local population. And to the government, we actually asked the government to eradicate what we call the green tax. So, for the environment. Our fundamental reservations to this is that you cannot tax everything as a means of discouragement. You need to go beyond the measures of taxation to increase green initiatives. the other thing is, we're now reaching our maximum electrical production capabilities within the next 5 years. In fact, we will be in the surplus line of electricity. So why tax very fundamental items like electrical items like induction? Why do you tax induction? There is no need to tax that. If you really want to achieve the zero zero carbon footprint goals by 2025, 45, or even 2050, right? So these were our fundamental resolutions to each and every sectors, and to all of it, we did get to an agreement to some extent, but then this is a gradual process. So
Negotiations almost weeks and months in advance to like get even the smallest thing negotiated. So we just wanted to give you also a bit of a feeling of how difficult these negotiations are sometimes.
Addressing the youth activist demands. So I like to tell about the CSR, which is about contributing 10% of it for supporting community forest user groups for training on preparing biodegradable compost, and we'll also be starting our industry on April 22nd, so that on the World Earth Day to have an impact, significant impact on our industry, and which makes this memorable for everyone. And as you know, we are selling fertilizers, which is biodegradable fertilizers. Our business itself is about sustainability. Our fertilizers are targeted for local people, and by this we mean establish plants in an area and cater to the population of a specific area. Also, we will be using electronic vehicles, so very minimal to no fuel consumption. This was about the transportation energy usage, and for operating the plant, we also use solar energy. So this way our business is completely environmental friendly, if you are worried about that. So now talking with the government. So we can help the government to achieve their national interests on various aspects. So we are offering you some economic sovereignty and resilience, including some meeting some SDGs goals that you promised to us. So the government should support impact industries like ours, because it's a very we're just starting up, and by increasing tariffs on imported fertilizers and providing subsidies, which is also in a policy in which the government has to give subsidies to green industries. So we should also shift from convenience to resilience. So I think it's a win-win situation for both of us, for government and for the business industries. So now for the farmers, who are our core consumption consumers. So we will supply fertilizers to you at the right time, which the government hasn't been able to do, which will help the farmers in timely cultivation, which is also already biodegradable, so you won't have to think and waste your energy and time, efforts, and your money on something that's gonna not last forever. So since our fertilizer is a biofertilizer, the farmers can brand their products as organic, thus giving them a very significant market opportunity. Using biofertilizers that means that the soil quality is not going to be degraded, and you're going to have a very long term of plants, and it's never going to be, like, it's always going to be enough for you at least, and for the whole country to at least to be fed upon. And the land retains production capacity as well this way. So we are planning on a very long-term, facilitating in a very long-term way. So farmer also need, so about the thing you guys put forth for the government, we also want to negotiate something with you guys, which is about, like, farmers already need the subsidies to support from the government due to climate change, and for that we can mediate that by multiplying the benefits, so that we also put forth that idea with you guys. That's okay. So that's it.
Questions. Thank you very much. It's very understandable to be impatient at this point to ask government this kind of question, and we understand it as a government of Nepal. regarding the EV or vehicle case that you think in 5 years Nepal is gonna be over emitting things like that. But it's really a good thing that in South Asia or Asia, Nepal is one of the top countries that's gonna be full EV operated country. So that's actually a good thing rather than to pay later, right? It's a more cost than the EV. So actually, according to the data, EV vehicles actually emit only 10 to 12% in Nepal. And even if every single car, truck or bikes, they were supposed to become electric tomorrow, we still have 90% of the problem to solve yet. So that is, where does that come from? If you think so, then it comes from the other parts, and the biggest culprit can be thought as the agriculture, forestry, and other land uses that we are not aware of and we don't think much about. So that accounts to 70% of the total emission in Nepal, which is mostly methane and other traditional practices of land use. So we must focus on this part mostly, actually, rather than EVs, because actually it's a really good thing. And when Nepal is, we also like to actually answer the carbon credits. So actually, for the carbon credits that we haven't discussed with you guys yet, so it's actually Nepal. If once becomes a carbon zero, like carbon neutral country, it will only help the other countries become like Nepal. It's not actually, it's actually sailing, and then there's benefit for all the sectors like businesses, farmers, and even youth activists. And actually, carbon neutral thing for youth activists to work on is a very high level job, and then you have this something to work on that actually helps the nation build up, not only for you but the whole country. And for businesses, you can have, if you work on the carbon neutral businesses and deals, you get a less tax, and then there's more opportunities for you to do other businesses, increase your business franchises and everything. So there's profit everywhere, not only for government, but we distribute. And for farmers, there's secondary farming. There's a lot of opportunities you can think of, actually. Thank you very much. I'll pass on to Noah.
We are looking at it through a very monetary angle. So let's say when we have capital, so when there is flow of money, so we have a strong capital. So that's also where, this is where making is they want tariff. So we can actually put on tariff, make them work on manufacturing the kind of infrastructure, the kind of machines that agriculture wants, or the kind of fertilizers they want. So that we can actually, when we have capital, we can bring together the businesses and produce the kind of machineries, produce the kind of fertilizers that the farmers want. And when it's locally produced in your own country, the prices are going to go down. So that's also how we aim to actually bring together and then collaborate with them. And also we want to work on a public-private partnership framework, so we can actually, it's not just the entrepreneurs or the businesses now, there's also government will be overlooking them, we will be controlling the profits or controlling any bad things they are doing. So that's also how we look at this. And also for the youth, we will also want a monitoring and evaluation committee where they can actually put their inputs, where they can actually work together with the government, the entrepreneurs, the businesses, and also where we can actually have an input of the youth so that they can bring new ideas or new initiatives. So that's how we aim to solve or address all the issues when we have compensations. But that's how I would like to answer your question. But again, I think this is a very this would look like a very harsh statement, but I think when you are emitting carbons, this is especially for the youth. So you were talking about the green tax. So when you emit carbon dioxide, that's gonna add to the climate change. So I think we as individuals, we also have to be responsible. So that's also where we want you guys to be accountable for the things that you are doing, for the carbons that you are emitting. So for right now, we don't have any plans on cutting green taxes, but maybe as Fu said, when we go fully non-carbon emitting, then maybe when we have when we are fully electric, we can actually think of cutting the green tax. And again, I would also like to say that the government cannot just function without any resources. Tax is one of the main sources where we can actually have the finances to work on everything. So yeah, green tax is not something that we would right now want to we wouldn't agree on that. So that's it. Thank you.
You didn't say you didn't want to cut greenhouse gases, but just the taxes. So that's a good start. No. So basically, we're now at the end of this. I want to first of all ask you to give yourself all a big applause, because I think that was like a very interesting thing to see how you all did it. And just explain to each other, and sometimes it takes a lot of time to negotiate even the smallest of little bits. So think about this as well, also when you're here in the next days, to give you a little bit of an idea how difficult actually climate politics are also on the ground. And I hope this simulation or this debate also helped you with this. Feel free to continue the discussion also in the next days. If you have any questions, we are still here. And before we close, I want to ask our two jury members to give their feedback a little bit. So what we didn't tell you in the beginning is there will be one debate winner. We will announce it tomorrow, but we will give you already the feedback from our resource person and our experts here. But really, it was a lot of fun also for myself to see how engaged you all were. And after this, we close and we go to dinner.
Thank you all, and congratulations again. I think I'm going to give some very broad general comments, and then Palak here will give you more in-depth, detailed answers. I can really see the difference from the start to the end, where I think your confidence was slowly growing as you were doing the negotiations and speaking. And you could see you understanding the issues a bit better, and you were much more confident in defending your arguments. And I think that is something that's very important when you're speaking and when you're negotiating. It's also to have that confidence in defending your arguments. And you also linked it to the answers and to the other different interest groups. Like for instance, when the government was speaking, you're directly answering to what the activists wanted or what the farmers groups wanted. Which at the beginning, I think Palak had actually said, what are you wanting? And so those are some of the things, confidence. And the other thing is the originality. We could see different groups at different levels, and what we could see was actually some of you sounded a bit more authentic, where it's not just about the level of knowledge, but also how authentic and how you thought it through, and it comes from you. It's not that. But I also like the fact that you all use, and clearly you were listening to Palak this morning, all of you use data to back up your arguments. So that was a good thing that you did. So as I said, you listened to her in the morning, and you need to do that. Whatever evidence or whatever arguments you make, you always do need to back it up with evidence and data. So, and I think the final point, I can't remember now, see this is old age speaking, was, you defended your arguments. Some of you kept to time, but again, I think that's another important thing. But I think the other thing I feel that you all understood towards the end is how it's, as Jonas mentioned, it's a complex issue. We all have wish lists as interest groups or different groups. We all have this long list of things that we want to do and we wish to do. But in the real world, you may not be able to get everything. So then it's that whole negotiation that you have to do. What are the non-negotiables that you're not going to let go of, and what you could perhaps compromise on? And that it's not just you, but it's a complex linkage between different groups that finally makes up what climate policy and climate action and solutions can come about. I think that's basically mine, and I will leave it to Palak to give more detail.
You understand task, take few minutes in the start only, rather than just discussing and going on, and then end up with the wrong kind of a statement or a discussion. It's always good to have some reasoning discussion beforehand, so that you understand task first, that's most important. And second important point was that you have to think like a particular sector. Like you have to think like a farmer here. And this was, so my expectation from this farming group was huge because you are the safest sector. You need not to think about anyone else. What government is thinking, what business person is thinking. You only have to put clearly your challenges. What are your challenges and what is your demand? That's it. So this was very simple for you guys. So you don't need to think about what others are thinking. You need, because you are the provider. You produce the food. So you cannot just negotiate at all. So you have to be firm on your demands. So that's one thing. So you better understand your position. That is very, very important. So because negotiation is for other people, business person needs more negotiation, and overall government needs to do more negotiation. But you are clearly on the demand side. So that's what you have to think about, and you should have answered based on your demands only, which was missing, and I was expecting more from you. From the second group, which is activist group, in the start I was feeling that you're losing it, but and you have kind of made it. So finally, so this was the group who actually presented the real negotiating points for all different sectors, which was quite good. And not beyond the thoughts or beyond the expectations or beyond the doable extent, but these were really good. And taking account of each sector, how much they can afford, how much they can do. So that was quite a good ask. So I like that. For business person, they're quite good people, I guess. So they think straight. That's one point I really like. One point that you are very original. You were very original from your points. So that's important. And also thinking about bio fertilizer is out of the box thinking, I would say. Usually you won't get much to earn with biofertilizer, but you have created a narrative that now you're earning also, and also you're helping the sector at the same time. But the only one point I want to make that how you can give 10% of your profit into CSR. So that's, you again have to think about it. Because 10% is too much. So before making any commitment, you also have to think about your business. After all, you're here to earn profits, right? So whatever you're putting out, so you just think about it. 10% is quite a huge, so that's again a point. For the government, so yeah, okay. So for the government, I think it was good, and I think the best comment among all, I like that last comment she made about the carbon credits and all. What's her name? Sorry. Okay, so she is, so whatever she said in her comment about the carbon credit and how we should be, rather than following the carbon credit thinking, we should focus on being more carbon neutral. So that's, I think if everyone, every country and government, if they start thinking in this direction, then we won't need a carbon credit system at all. So we won't need compensation at all, and we won't be needing any taxation over anything. So that's one very positive approach if it is coming from the government side. So it will help government and all different sectors all together. So that's really out of the most thinking, and I really liked it. So you have to have your position. So these kind of strong narrative coming from the government, it means next year you will remain in power. And also you become one of the leader at international platforms. So that's really good. Overall, I think I really enjoy it. And as she mentioned, in the end, we can see your energy, how this has changed from start to end. So it was commendable. So thank you for participating.